Hey guys, it's John Rapp. Welcome to Takeover Tuesday here at the Paddle and Fin podcast. Got a great show. Let's kick it off.
You're watching the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. Welcome to the Rusty Hook Podcast, presented by Feelfree Kayaks. Paddle, pedal, or power, there's something for everyone. ZPRO Lithium, serious power for serious anglers. DuBro Fishing, American marine application soft plastics. Big Lake Bait Company, Texas's #1 custom bait maker. Raw and unfiltered. Streaming on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Bringing you gear reviews and candid interviews from the industry's best. Angler profiles, tournament news, and legendary knowledge from kayak fishing's best. Grab that cold drink and get settled in. Now here's John Rapp, our host.
That's right, folks. John Rapp here. I got my cold drink. I'm ready to sit down and chill, chat, and talk all things kayak fishing. I got a great show with you tonight. I got a great guest. Matter of fact, me and Josh have talked about trying to get him on for about 2 months after our time down in North Carolina back at the end of March. But, he keeps the road hot, and I have to. So finally, after his most recent ass kicking down at Santee Cooper, Jurassic Park, I was able to get with him and say, hey, come on the show, talk about some of your techniques, what you did, how you were effective, and then we'll just let Josh talk about, how he's come from the beginning to where he's at now, what's worked for him, just an overall just chit-chat and talk about the sport that we love. I want to give a shout out to Tim Segraves here in Nicholas County. I know all of us have done this at some time or another. This was my first experience in 10 years of kayak fishing, especially when you're motorized. I took my boat out to Summersville Lake day before yesterday in the evening. Was cruising, went back to the back, was trying to catch some smallmouth, catch my first West Virginia bass. A boat came in back in the creek, and we were back in that creek, and he saw me back at the mouth, and he turned around and went out. Well, I was about done anyway. I wanted to cruise back and get to the house. So I kicked that NK300 in, and I was cruising. And as I saw him, I slowed down and moved over to the right of the mouth. It was probably about a 75 yards wide creek. And if you know anything about Summersville Lake in West Virginia, it's very, very deep. So it drops off, but it's got a lot of boulders and stuff. Well, as I was cruising next to him, I come up on a rock. I went from 40 feet of water to 6 inches, and I got stuck on that rock. Thank goodness it wasn't 18 inches of water, or I would have destroyed that NK300 prop. But I did get stuck, and Tim in his boat was talking to me, and as I spent 5 minutes trying to get off that rock, and I finally like, Tim, I'm going to need an assist because, like I said, 18 inches of water, I'm looking at the rock, and then off the edge of it was probably 30, 40 feet of water. So, Tim, I appreciate the assist. God bless you, and thanks again. So, the real deal, and that's what this is about, is Josh Diehl, kayak angler from Georgia, sponsored by ZPRO Lithium. Very proud to have him on that team. He's also sponsored by other companies. We'll bring him on and let him talk about that and more. Josh, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, man, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you. I mean, I know you're a hot ticket right now in the kayak fishing world after that the absolute shellacking you gave the native watercraft folks this past weekend. Before we get into that, let's talk about your socials. Folks, you can find those in the comments of this show, but let's let Josh go over some shout outs, some socials, and run that down for us.
Okay. Yeah, I can start off with some shout outs first, and then I'll move to the socials. So for me, you mentioned I have some other sponsors as well as ZPRO. ZPRO is one of my premier sponsors. Very proud to be on the team and very proud to have them in my corner. On top of ZPRO, I have the folks over at 5x3 Fishing. They've been with me since the very beginning of my kayak fishing career. These guys, hands down, have been through every step, every good day, every bad day, and everything in between. And I have a lot of respect and appreciation for them. I'm also with the folks over at Boondocks. I'm part of the Hobie fishing team. And then in addition to that, I work with the crew over at Battlefield Outdoors out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, while out of Fort Ogle, Georgia, just outside of Chattanooga. And then in addition, I'm on the Dobbins Rods kayak team as well.
I saw Battlefield was giving you some huge shout outs. They definitely showed some love to you. I thought that was pretty awesome of them.
They're a solid crew up there. I really appreciate them.
Yeah. Cool. So socials, man, if people want to know about you, learn a little bit about you, where can they find that information at?
So the easiest way to find me right now is on Facebook and Instagram through my profile at Real Deal Fishing. That's the easiest way to find me. I have a YouTube channel, but it's a little bit it needs work.
Hey, you got one more subscriber today. I can tell you that.
So I appreciate that. I'm going to be working on it. Like one of the things I'm going to use some of the winnings for is to get me an Insta360 and start getting some footage on the water. It's something that I've tinkered with the GoPros, and I'm just not a fan of the way the GoPro sets up on the kayak. It just doesn't set up the way that I want it to set up. And so I'm going to play with the Insta360 and see how it works and see if I can't get into my regular fold. I recently
Huge fan.
Yep. Recently did an upgrade, put the Boondocks crossbar up front. And so I'll have a perfect mounting location for that Insta360. I'm looking forward to how that turns out. And I'll get pictures out for everybody to see.
Awesome. I mean, I'm going to tell you, when I was down in Charlotte with Josh, got to look at how he had his wiring system set up in his boat, the fuse systems and everything, was able to get some photographs. I stole some of those ideas, actually rigged mine up similar to that. I actually had a buddy of mine who's an electrician come over and help me wire things and run wire and set things up because I didn't want to screw things up. Actually, and that tells you how bad I am. When I was charging my battery after my outing day before yesterday, when I was putting it back together, I reversed it and popped one of my fuses. So I had to, just you know how you get when you're in a hurry and you're trying to do things, you overlook things, and I completely changed black on red and black and messed that up. But yeah, I mean, you have one heck of a great system. The way you have your fuse boxes and your batteries right there in that little hatch up front, it's beautiful work. So,
thank you. I do everything on quick disconnects. Everything is hardwired into the boat to include my lighting, even my rear 360 light. I come from a little bit of a bass boat background on the side as well, and so I've taken some lessons learned from that. And my buddy Big Smoke Kevin and I have really put some time into figuring out what the best wiring setup looks like and what works for me on the water. And so everything's, like I said, quick disconnect. I've got switches on the front panel that I can turn things on and off. I have quick access to everything, and I have plenty of power with ZPRO under the hood.
Well, speaking of which battery are you currently using to run your electronics and lights and things like that?
So right now I'm using a 1230 on a quick disconnect. I'm actually looking to bump that up because I'm going to put a second graph on the kayak. I'm looking to bump it up to a 12, I believe 50, once those come back in stock, and get one of those on board. But right now I'm running 1230 on quick disconnect. If it runs out of juice, I just plug the next one in and keep going.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I reached out to David a couple of days ago and said, hey, the 1250s that are coming in, they are supposed to be Bluetooth capable too.
That's
so
correct.
that'll be really, really sweet to have a little battery that you're using for your electronics and be able to check it after going out for 8 hours, seeing how much juice you've got left, and decide, I don't need to charge it until tomorrow, or don't need. That's one less work, something that I got to worry about today. I can wait till tomorrow. So that's gonna be nice. So okay. So you talked about you came from the bass boat world. So how long have you been in a kayak now?
So I've been in a kayak officially I've been in a kayak for almost 5 years. And I say I come from a bass boat world. I fished my entire life, John boats, small boats. I owned a V-hull boat for a while, and I bought my first bass boat back in, I don't know, 2017, 2018, and was, just fishing for fun. That's all I ever did. I just enjoyed going out to fish, and I still enjoy going out to fish. And one day my buddy came up to me and he's like, look, you need to come out and fish with us in a tournament. And I'm like, dude, I don't tournament fish. It's just not me. I don't come out and tournament fish. I just fish for fun. I just go out there and see how many fish I can catch and have a good time. And I came out and tournament fished, and a lot of things happened that year, and the rest is history. I went from local, small town, doing nothing but just having fun on the lake to competing on the big national stage against the best kayak anglers in the U.S. And, it's been an incredible journey.
So 5 years on the tournament scene. How much longer do you see yourself doing that? And do you think that you will do any transitioning like like I have? Will you find yourself, instead of doing just tournaments all the time, but spending more time shooting content, or with that, when you get that Versa 360, you're going to absolutely fall in love with the features and how easy it is to just click that baby on. I did lose a couple fish a couple days ago on those smallmouth, because I was like, I got to get a couple of these smallmouth on video. I got a nice red eye, but you set it right there where you can just click it, turn it on, and it records, right? And it catches your video for you. But because what I'll do, I'll cast, and as soon as I feel that nibble, I'll click that button, and then I'll try to set the hook, or I'll set the hook and feel that fish on there, and then I'll try to click the button, and that mistake right there is I'm giving it a little bit of slack. And when I try to catch up with it after it's ran toward me or something, then I'm like, I lost it. Didn't get a good hook set. But you're going to love it, man. I can't wait. And I'm curious, like next Tuesday, I'm taking off for a week to go to Lake Erie with a bunch of my buddies from here. And I guarantee you, if I don't have 25 to 40 smallmouth on that 360 to post just about every day, I'm going to be very upset.
Can't blame me there. So.
Yeah. So do you see a transition in your future, or are you still going to do the hardcore? Because you've been traveling a lot, man. I mean, do you feel like that you'll reduce some of that work and then go out and do some more stuff for ZPRO or 5x3, just do some video and send to them, or any people like that, or even for yourself?
That's a really hard question, because I still am trying to prove to myself that I deserve to be on circuit.
Bro, I don't think you have to prove anything now.
I know what I've done on trail and the accomplishments I've made and stuff like that, but to be inside my head for a moment, I'm still trying to prove to myself that I deserve to be on circuit. There are some days that I go out there and I'm like, this is me. This is where I deserve to be. I earned this, and I still believe I earned it. But at the same time, I'm still pushing myself. I'm still driving, and I'm getting a little bit of nudges lately. I've had a handful of people reach out and ask me if I'm going to go big boats, in the future. It's a hard conversation because there's some expenses involved with that I just don't know that I'm ready to take in. I'm putting kids through college, and I still work a full-time job, and I don't intend to give that up anytime soon. And so it's just a difficult question. I'm going to keep pushing trail. I got plenty of years left in me to push trail. Now, how much trail I push, I think that's TBD. I have to find what the balance is between potentially, pushing some of the boat world activity and then also continuing on the kayak side of things.
I got
you. They both have perks.
Yeah. It's nice to have those type of options, because right now, you being a hot ticket, your name is huge out there. We know people are starting to realize, and if they're not, then they're blind, or they don't have their ear to what's going on in the industry, because you've been making waves the past 2 years, 3 years. Right there over your left shoulder, you got a couple of nice blue trophies. Now, next week, you're going to have 4 checks. You're going to have a brand new native watercraft that who knows what you're going to do with. I say you're probably going to keep it. You're going to get with your buddy. You're going to say, let's rig this baby up. And you're going to have an extra kayak to have at the house for the wife. Jimmy Joe Bob, who comes down from God knows where else and says, let's go fishing, and you'll have all that sitting, waiting for you to use.
I think the Hobie fishing team would be upset with me if I didn't tell them I was putting somebody in the Hobie. So,
well, that's true. That's true. I understand that because but I mean, and that's also a nice sell to put a little bit more cash in your pocket to pay for more trips, pay for that Insta360, buy that extra graph, So, I mean, so techniques. We're getting ready to get into what you did Saturday, but what techniques have you learned and practiced, and let's not say mastered, because nobody's ever a master of their craft in fishing. You're always learning, but that you are very, very comfortable in your go-to techniques.
So I want to touch on something. You said we're always learning. And one of the things that I truly believe is that no matter who you fish with, you always learn something from the next person you fish with. And so exposure to other anglers, good, bad, and indifferent, teaches you things along the way. And having communities that you can talk and click in help as well with your development and progression in the sport. As far as me, I'm a versatility angler. Everybody kind of laughs. You see me as a kayak angler when I show up and I've got 11 rods on the back of my kayak and I've got 11 different techniques in play. And I'm sitting there because for me, I truly believe there's a fish of the moment aspect to it. If I pull into an area and I'm like, this is frog water, and I just feel that it's frog water, I'm going to pick up a frog. That's what I did at Santee Cooper. I'm comfortable dragging a worm deep. I'm comfortable with deep cranking. I'm comfortable with shallow cranking. I'm a little bit weak in the jerkbait techniques. I don't have the patience with the jerkbait that I need to have.
Yeah.
Not do as good of a job locating suspended, stalled out fish. Some guys laughed at me last year because I jerkbaited a square bill at Gunnersville last year when I found suspended fish and absolutely destroyed them on it. It's just something different, right?
And again, who would have thought about that unless now I've been just exposed to that idea by you. And like you said, you're always going to learn something when you associate and talk with other folks. So
my best success has come on grass lakes to date in my career. I live on a lake that has zero grass, which is just a little bit of an oxymoron, but then my best work has all come on grass lakes.
Huh. Yeah, I would have thought everything in Georgia was grass. I guess you got some clay around you or something, or what?
Lots of clay, lots of rock, lots of hard bottom, lots of empty water, solitary brush piles, cane piles. And we live on a herring fishery, and we have absolutely no grass.
Well, I mean, so you talked about you're going to get another graph. What do you employ now, and how do you plan on using the second unit?
So I currently have a Garmin 106 SV on the kayak. I actually ordered the second graph yesterday. It's another 106 SV. I'm going to run them in tandem. One's going to be committed to my forward-facing sonar, focused on the LVS 34. And then the other one is going to be dedicated to my map, side imaging, my traditional loadout. Most people, I think, I have an appreciation for forward-facing sonar, but I still find myself in a lot of tournaments not using it. It's one of those things where on the bass boat, it's always on. On the kayak, it's sometimes in the way. And it gets to be a disturbance and kind of interferes with the ability to fish. And so, like at certain events like Lake Murray this year, I needed the live scope. I pulled the live scope up. I knew that I needed to be utilizing it. And I dropped it in and was looking at fish in 20 foot of water. And on day 2, I absolutely crushed them by utilizing my live scope. At Seminole, I've used live scope to map the sides of grass, the edges of grass, just to make accurate casts. I'm not looking for fish. I'm only looking for grass lines and transitions and breakpoints, and using it as a way to improve my efficiency versus trying to find and target fish with it. Trusting instincts of the past and then using that with the new tech.
I think Roy Widgeon from U.S. Kayak Fishing Magazine's on with us. He's got another question here for you, and maybe you can help him here. So, what transducer mount will you use for the forward-facing sonar unit?
So right now I use the Fisherman. It's I keep it on the right-hand side. It folds up and down when I travel, and then I basically have enough cord on the going into the transducer pole itself that I basically tuck it and lean it over the kayak and plug it into the rod holders, and then just strap it down for travel.
Okay. Hey, so we talked about wiring a little bit ago. Do you already have like a hookup that you can set that up? I know you probably were forward thinking when you were building your boat. Did you got space or a plug-in ready for that over there on that side of the boat?
I don't have a plug-in ready for it, but it won't take me long to make that adjustment. I would say I probably need 2 hours and a little bit of help from Big Smo just to get everything oriented the way I want it. And we'll have it set up. I have some new equipment coming in from Boondocks. I've got the Boondocks firewall on the way in. That's going to help with some of my cable management with the new battery setup, and have that laid out nice and neat. And I'll get some pictures out there when I get set up.
Yeah, I like to see that because I know I got some wiring mess. I'm just using some black duct or electrical tape to tape up and keep it out of the way. Like you, and when matter of fact, you were with me when I had my Quandre in Charlotte when I brought that new boat and thought I had all of the stuff to set up my new Mega 360 that I was going to use on Lake Norman. I've got it now. When I was in Tennessee, I had it set up on the back of an NK 180 so I could deploy it. But when I was at 300, is so strong for my Moken, it actually drags the rear end of the boat back almost underwater.
Yeah.
And but it was that 360 unit was causing a disturbance. It was pushing water back up into my boat. So I had to pull that out. I had to pull that away. I got Sniper Marine, which is in Tennessee, near you, as a matter of fact, down around Chattanooga, between Chattanooga and Knoxville. They overnighted me their bracket with some rubber on the inside because their unit is a big circle unit. It's made for your forward-facing sonar shafts, and my 360 shaft is like a 1.5, 1.25, where yours is maybe a 1.5. So they sent me some rubber tubing to put inside. Works great, and I set it up. Got to play with it a little bit. 2 graphs. I got 2 Humminbird 9-inch units, doing the same thing that you're doing with what you're planning on doing, which is one of them I use for charting and for just regular down imaging. The other one I use for 360. So when I'm moving around, and the good thing, I don't move a lot. When I find an area that I'll study an area that I want to fish that's got a lot of laydowns. And so I'll stick in an area that could be, let's say, 600 to 800 yards of bank, and I'll just use that 360 and go through there and just chart it to death. So
there's nothing wrong with, man. That's a great approach. It's one of those things that I wish that every tournament I came to, I had fish set up where I felt like I could work them in 1 or 2 basic areas. I've just found cases where that just doesn't function, or I have to work larger swatches of water to kind of get a little bit more exposure to the fish necessary to be competitive.
Yeah, and thanks, Roy. Roy threw up a couple of responses there. He was talking about that, and I've never thought about that, the forward-facing brain fit. Now, I don't have to worry about that like you guys do with Lowrance and Garmin, because you have a separate head unit that you got to power up for those graphs. And apparently it's a little bit bigger than the track pack. So maybe that's something that the boys down at YakGadget need to look at and consider. So even DuBro Fishing in Illinois might want to look at building something to house something like that. So you talked a little bit about your techniques. What is your go-to technique?
I don't have one.
Your confidence technique. If you're sitting, if you're going out right now and you're like, I need to catch a fish in the next 15 minutes, and I'll give you a scenario of water so you can determine one of those 13 poles that you carry, which one will fit.
I need that. That's to determine the answer here.
6 feet of water, grass mats, with, let's just say a lot of grass. The water's pretty flat, 6 to 8 feet. What are you going to use?
So topped out vegetation or
no, it's going to be grass about from the first 4 feet. There's 2 feet of clear water above, so you could throw a top water, hoping they're sitting at the top of the grass, or you could throw a Senko, sink it down in there. I mean, oops, I shouldn't have been giving you ideas there, but
no. So I already have an answer. So you see, both of these state championships over here were won on a crankbait on shallow grass, and I would, in a shallow grass situation, I would lean towards throwing the shallow crankbait first. I have more trophies behind me that are based off of shallow crankbait fishing in the grass than I do anything else.
For example, what crankbait would you throw? I'm thinking square bill, but they go a little deeper than 2 or 3 feet. Some do. I mean, it'd have to be a shallow one.
That's a hard one for me to give away on this one. Like, this is a tried and true technique. I have about 30 of them sitting in my garage, and there's a very few select number of people that know. I have done it with a square bill. I'm no stranger to the square bill, but my preference is not a square bill.
Okay.
I will tell you this. I am notorious for picking up a square bill that's as big as your fist.
Wow. Yeah. No, Roy, we got like 1,000 viewers right now watching this show. He's trying to say that nobody is listening, and he wants you to spill. But he did make this comment here. Would it be a beetle spin? 100%.
No, I haven't. I won't say I despise it, because the beetle spin is right for chasing crappie, and there's certain fisheries where it'll wreck them. But I'm not the big fan. I'm not a big fan of underspins. I'm not a big fan of beetle spins. Like, if I'm going to pick up a spinnerbait, I'm going to pick up a spinnerbait.
I hear you. Well, actually, I was sort of thinking that might be where you were going to go, was a spinnerbait, because first. My scenario when I was thinking of my buddy down in Bluestone was Mark Edwards. I'm sure you know Mark. He's a hammer. And yes, Mark's another one like you. He'll have 12 to 20 fishing poles rigged up, lined up in that back of that boat for that scenario that he may come across that he's, so, but I know.
I may only move one rod during the entire tournament, but they're all with me, because if I pull up into an area and my gut tells me that there's a swing change, I'm ready for it. Good
deal. So, drum roll. I don't have it set up on this thing. I need to put a drum roll sound on here. Dude, you just recently smashed a tournament this weekend. Guys, gals, when we come back, we'll get Josh to talk about it.
Feelfree Kayaks. Paddle, pedal, or power. Something for everyone. DuBro Fishing. Marine products for fresh or saltwater adventures. ZPRO Lithium. Serious power for serious anglers. Big Lake Bait Company. Texas's #1 custom soft plastics.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Rusty Hook Podcast. First 30 minutes is down, and now we're going to bring Josh back on. We're going to get him to talk about what he did at Santee Cooper. Did he avoid the 14-foot crocodiles? Was he chased? And what kind of dinosaurs did he actually catch? Man. You're back, Big Daddy.
Man. No 14-foot crocodiles, thank you very much.
Or alligators, yeah. I know there are some Jurassics down there around Angels, man. Angels.
There are.
When we'll go back here in those bass boats, even I get nervous in them things back here. When you get back here on that, the beach is back here on the back side of that little island where they all lay up.
Yes, on the top side of Marion there. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's back in the old canals, back in the old canals where it's like different little ponds and pockets back there.
Yeah, there's an area back there near Potato Creek like that really scares me, near the refuge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've ran into some big gators, like bigger than my kayak gators back there. I get squirmy with that. That just doesn't.
No. I don't think people really realize that when they call that place down at Santee, Jurassic Park, there's a reason for it. There are some. We came across a gator that was dead in the water. It was probably 12 foot long, and you could there was a bite on the side of it, and I'm thinking, what took that gator out? I mean, good grief! But hey, I mean, Santee Cooper was really good to you. So guys, if you don't know much about the Native Watercraft series and what they do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Josh just fish it, and I'm going to have him explain their format so you can understand his thought process on why he went the way he did, because there's different ways that you can win with that tournament format. So Josh, take it over there and tell them a little bit about how that event worked.
Okay, so the Native No Limit event is it's actually Native No Limit and the Big Bass Power Hour. It fishes like a Big Bass event, but at the same time, it fishes with a no limit format. The no limit format is as many fish over 14 inches that you can catch and score count towards one side of the tournament. And so if first place catches 35 fish over 14 inches, it's the total inches for those 35 fish on the scoreboard. And then that's the no limit side. There's usually payouts based on number of anglers in the field, similar to any other traditional event. We had just under 100 anglers, so we had five slots on the no limit side. And then you have the Big Bass Power Hour. The Big Bass Power Hour pays biggest fish per hour, each hour of the day. And so you have 8 hours, and so you have 8 big bass, and then the big bass of the event wins a brand new kayak, in this case a Native Titan X 12.5.
Very nice. So you decided to go one way instead of the other when you sat down and planned out this tournament. Explain to everybody what your decision process was.
So this isn't my first time fishing a big bass event. I fished them out of the bass boats here on the home ponds. And in addition to that, I also fished it last year at Gunnersville and won this year at Chick already. And the thing that I'm starting to think about is, when I go out and practice, do I have numbers or am I chasing size? What's my determining factor there? If I feel like I've got numbers of fish, then I definitely want to compete on the no limit side of the house. And then if I don't feel that I have numbers to my advantage, then I want to go chase big fish and I'm going to sell out to catch some big fish. You have to kind of make that decision early. If you fish the no limit side, and you don't have to make the decision, but if you choose to fish the no limit side, you still have a chance of catching a big bass check. It's just you can commit your brain and your focus to catching as many fish as possible that are going to score and then running up the score on the leaderboard. Where on the big side, you can commit to larger baits or specialized techniques that tend to draw bigger fish. And then it's really just about locating those bigger fish. Like, yes, you can catch big fish on a drop shot. You can catch big fish on a shaky head. But like some of those finesse techniques don't always necessarily produce bigs at the consistency that maybe something like a frog or a big swim bait will do. And that's where some of that separation comes in. I threw a 10-inch worm and a frog pretty much all day at Santee Cooper. Sold out to it. And the whole reason behind it was those are techniques that a 10-inch worm usually tends to produce a higher class of fish, a higher quality fish. You won't catch as many fish, but you will catch that better quality. And then the same thing with the frog. The frog will get activity from smaller fish, but the frog still has that enticing factor with those bigger fish as well. And so I committed to the big bass side of the house. After practice at the home pond, I was like, this just isn't going to work format-wise. I don't think I have the numbers that I need to compete on the no-limit side. I'm going to take the 2.5-hour drive. I'm going to go to Santee Cooper, and I'm going to commit to chasing big fish all day. I've got an area that I know has big fish year-round. It's just a matter of locating them and getting them to eat.
Well, I don't think that was much of a problem for you on Saturday. So,
Yeah.
guys, he just explained to you that there's a big bass power hour. And of that hour, this is an 8-hour tournament. Josh, how many of those power hours did you win?
This event, I won 4.
So you took 50% of the pot.
I did. I took 50% of the power hours, and I took the overall big fish of the event.
Outstanding. So let's talk about the first power hour that you fished, that you won, which I think was hour 2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's correct.
So tell us about. So we're talking. What is that? 7 a.m.
It would have been, in this case, it would have been 7:15 to 8:15.
Okay, so 7:15 to 8:15. Low visibility, sun's still coming up, water's a little chilled. Give us a little breakdown on conditions, how you broke it down, and what technique you used to catch your fish.
So my first hour of the day, which was the 6:15 to 7:15 hour, was actually kind of a waste. The waves were high, and some of the places that I would typically started on Santee Cooper, it was difficult to fish them the techniques that I wanted to throw. And so I had to start making some adjustments. And so right away, I was like, okay, how do I get myself into an area that's got semi-flat water, has a level of protection, has fish that might be transitioning or moving, and then, transitioning or moving to feed, and then setting up for the rest of their day. And so I got back into a semi-secluded area. I still had a breeze, but there was fish up on a general flat around individual pieces of cypress.
Yeah, so my first thought's Black's Camp. Hey, our boys from Southeast Georgia, God bless you. Stay safe out there, my brother. Appreciate you jumping in. But I would have thought Black's Camp. I would have went one of those back coves, especially because when you started talking waves and water, I'm thinking, man, you must have been out off some of the deeper points, off the edges, But I know a lot of different places in the lake. We have never spoke about exactly what area you were in. I have a good idea based on my knowledge of the lake, but explain what pushed you in. But you said, because I know Santee can get really rough, real quick. If you're not, me and Beth, when we went down on our honeymoon, we're sitting at Black's Camp. We just came in off the water, and we watched a tornado, a water spout come through. So we were like, wow, that came out of nowhere. But South Carolina, your area, Georgia, what seems like is close to us could have been 30 or 40 miles away.
Sure.
But we were like, wow, check that out. But
so the weather forecast was supposed to be 3 to 5 mile an hour winds.
Okay.
We got to the lake in the morning. There were 20 mile an hour winds coming out of the north. And so it was quite sporty. It was tough to get off the ramp. We had a ramp that faced the north wind, and it was tough to get off the ramp. And so once I finally got off the ramp, I had to fight, 2.5 to 3 foot rollers, kind of working my way out to the areas that I wanted to touch first. And it was untenable to stay where I wanted to stay. I'm not running a bow mount. I'm running a Newport NK 300 on the back. And so I work my areas with some efficiency, and I kind of move and pivot and circle around and do things like that to keep myself in my general areas, and then I move on. And it was just too windy to do that, and so I just went further into secluded areas and worked from there.
Well, and I guess that's where you said you lost that first hour. So hour 2, you definitely put the good work. You found your location. What did you see that made you decide on the technique that ended up winning you some cash that hour?
Well, so for that hour, I was committed to a big worm. There's a handful of things at Santee that can sometimes produce. Sometimes you'll hear people talk about the Santee slide or the cypress slide, where you put a big bait on the side of the tree and it slides down the tree, and they eat it off the side of the tree. In the mornings, you don't necessarily have to worry about that as much. And so I'm just trying to make proximity casts in the area of the feet of the cypress tree. And I was basically chucking a 10-inch worm around, just trying to get a feel for things. It was still early in the morning, trying to look for a big bite. And I pulled up into an area, another kayaker pulled in close to me. He caught a fish that was 19, and right after he caught that fish, I caught a fish that was 20 and a half. And that fish was, I don't know, probably within 4 to 5 foot of a cypress tree.
Okay.
But it was in an open, flat area, and I knew the area from the past because it's an area where I've caught big fish before. It's like a transition area where fish are moving from shallow to deeper water and coming in and out to feed for the day.
So I'm glad that it worked out for you, because some people in the past have fallen into those traps where they've used history and history has hurt them. But for you on this occasion, it did not. So hour 2, you win $1,000 on a 20.5-inch fish.
That's right.
So let's move forward to, what was it, hour 4?
Yep, hour 4.
Okay. So hour 4, you're talking about 2 hours later. It's between 10:15 and 11:15. Sun is probably
9:15 to 10:15.
Okay. So no, sun is probably still a little bit behind trees. Did you still have heavy wind and cloud cover, or what was this?
No, the wind was starting to die down.
Okay.
And the fish that I was finding in the general flat and feeding area had kind of disappeared. And I was starting to work cypress, starting to pay a little bit more attention to shade and like the little bit of shade off the cypress trees, doing a little more of the cypress slide, and kind of just working water, trying to feel out where they were. I pulled into a creek that was in my area, and when I came in, I saw grass, and I had been seeing grass throughout the day, but I hadn't really seen grass like this. And so I don't know what kind of grass it was particularly. It reminded me of like, I don't know. What do they call them? They tend to grow little purple flowers, and they stay on top water.
Yeah. Okay.
Water.
Yeah,
You know,
I know what you're talking about.
and so anyway, so there was a surface grass, and I saw it, and I was like, man, that looks real froggy. I'm going to pick a frog. And so I made the first cast on the frog. It wasn't the best cast in the world. Get it back to the boat, nothing. I threw the second cast out, and I paralleled the grass perfectly. And as I was coming along the grass, a 21, I want to say it was a 21 and a half. It might have been a 21 and a quarter. Absolutely mauled it. Came up and destroyed it. And I was like, look, I just, realized a change in their position. And I'm like, I'm going to keep working this technique. So I caught another big fish. I kept the technique in my hand. I caught a few more fish in that general area doing the exact same thing. And that bite was good for about an hour and a half or so before I got to the line.
Hey, something that I didn't ask you, I never thought to ask you, and I know you finished, I think, 17th overall?
That's right.
So you went ahead, and even though you were aiming for big fish, if you caught anything over 14, you still scored it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Good, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
I, of course, I'm assuming that because you finished 17th, but you talked about those other fish, and with that technique, I'm sure that everything you were catching was over 14. So,
and that's not the case.
oh, really? Okay.
So I caught a 17, and then I caught 2 or 3 fish in the 13 and a half range.
Oh, on the frog.
On the frog.
Cool.
So
the little bucks were aggressive, weren't they?
that they were, and you could tell that they were just kind of in the area protecting a little bit.
Okay.
The strikes were pretty aggressive, and they would come up and they would hard commit to it. The 17-incher that I caught that I scored was a buck. Everything else, all the big girls were females for sure, and they were all already feeding up, resetting for summertime.
Sweet. So we've knocked out 2 of those 4 fish. Hour 7 and hour 8. So you had a little lull when it comes to big fish. We know you were catching other 14-inch or better, but we move into the hour 7. Can you talk about the time, what transitions you made? Because I know that when we've talked before, you found a pattern that last couple hours that really triggered your victory.
Yeah, that was a real difference maker. At the end of that event, once I figured out that the fish had moved up and into the flooded cypress, and were sitting on extensive shade areas, I was able to work the frog very effectively in those areas and basically pick up winning fish in hour 7 and hour 8. The long of the short there was I was working Cypress, trying to figure out what had changed from the morning hours. And I stopped back for a moment and thought, I was like, look, I think these fish are transitioning in, not out. And so they're committing to heavier, denser shade. And so I went up shallow. I passed an angler that was out there that was fishing off the grass pads, stuff that I had been doing throughout the course of the day and just hadn't really been working out. And when I moved up to the shallows and got dirt shallow, like right up against the canopy, and started working behind the canopy, anytime I had a shady section that had 20 foot or more of shade, that's where I got crushed. And it didn't matter if it was a big fish or a small fish. It was a matter of working through the areas and then finding that next big fish mixed in.
Well, I mean, what would you estimate in those 2 hours? How many fish did you catch?
You know, not a ton. I would say I want to say I probably caught 8 in those 2 hours. And I probably had, I would say maybe somewhere between 12 and 13 blowups. You know, frog fishing is not always the best hookup ratio. And so, yeah, I probably had 12, 13 blowups and 8 connects.
Sweet. So for hour 3, what was your big fish?
Hour 3, my big fish would have been a 17.
Or not hour 3. I mean,
hour 7. Yeah. So
hour 7. Yeah.
My fish got bigger throughout the day. I believe that my hour 7 fish was a 21.75.
And then your monster was that won the event for you, one that gave you the extra cash and the extra, the boat, the native watercraft, probably valued at over $2,500 if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, close to $4,000.
Is it that much?
Yeah, $3,800 for a Titan-X.
That's outstanding, bro. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
But so that was a 22 and a half or 22 and a quarter?
22 and a quarter. Yep.
Yeah.
That fish was 6.8 on the scale.
How far into the 20 or 25 foot shadow did it take her to come out and destroy that frog?
About 10 foot. And so basically I would throw her to the back of the shadow or as far back into the shadow as I can get. And after I got the frog to come halfway through that shadow space, that's when they would come out and hit it. That's when they would come out and commit.
Sweet. Man, I really appreciate you taking the last 50 minutes to talk to us. Guys, gals, Josh not only sit down and talk to us and talk to some other folks recently, but he took the time to pen and ink some of the acts that took place during his big victory. If you go over to ZPRO Lithium, we just published a new site. If you go to About ZPRO and you go to ZPRO News, you'll see this page here, and then you just scroll down and look at that beautiful man right there with that big monster fish. Look at his article here, and there it is. Go in and read what Josh had to say, what he did, something that I may have missed in tonight's interview, and he can. And I'm sure if you reach out to him on one of his socials, he'll give you tips, tricks, or even some guidance there. But you can see there's photos of his boat, his fish, some glory shots, and those 4 glory shots, as you've heard, has won him close to a 4,000 plus boat, 4,000 in cash, and other gift cards worth close to $2,000. So my boy racked it, and we're proud of him for what he did. And there's the live video with him and the commish from Queen City, chit-chatting there a little bit about. So, yeah, man, congratulations on a great weekend. We're super proud of you, and I know you got to be proud of your accomplishment.
Yes, sir, I do, and I am, and it's an epic one. This was a fantastic trip, and I did everything right. And you know, that's one of those things, like when you go out and you commit to the lake and you're like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to execute a plan and a strategy, and it works out. You look back at the end of that and you go, look, I did all that right. That's what matters. And that was awesome. It was amazing. It was epic. I'll never forget it.
So give in final thoughts and closing here, any advice you want to give to the kayak anglers out there on uh, just average techniques or boat setups or rigging or starting off?
I will say this because I think it's the biggest thing all the time. And I think it's the thing that impacts kayak anglers the most. And that is, you'll hear Gerald Swindle talk about it, the space between your ears. You got to be positive minded. You got to be champion minded. You got to have your head heading in the right direction. You can't let it weigh you down. You can't let the bad. You can't let the hard times, the hard trips, the tough events stand in your way. You have to keep picking yourself up and keep moving forward and keep progressing in your skill and your career. I don't care if you're a jig fisherman. I don't care if you're a fluke fisherman. I don't care if you prefer top water. Every single one of those techniques can win. It's whether or not you can make it win here. And if you can make it win in your head, you can make it win anywhere.
Bro, great words, great advice. Thank you for coming on and spending the last almost hour with us. Be blessed and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, brother. All right. So that was Josh Diehl, the real deal. Go check out his socials, follow, like, and subscribe to his pages. Especially go to his YouTube. Help the man out. We're going to build that page up. He needs it because, I mean, good grief. I mean, the dude's a hammer, and we need to support him. And, we also know that he's about to get that Versa 360 camera, and he's going to be putting some stuff out there on that and his Instagram, Facebook pages. So Josh Diehl, the real deal, at the real deal fishing is where you'll find him right there going across the bottom of the screen there. That's his handle for all those platforms. Just want to remind everybody, when you're out on the water, shit happens. It happened to me a couple days ago. Be prepared. Luckily, I had somebody there with me, but always wear your PFD. Always wear the appropriate clothing. Be prepared for stuff that can happen to you. I appreciate everybody that tuned in and watched with us. Marvin Santana, please do make sure you check it out on. We streamed live here on the West Virginia Kayak Anglers page. We're on the Colorado's TPO Dock Talk, Illinois' Paddle and Fin, and Rusty Hook. We are on YouTube with the Paddle and Fin and Rusty Hook pages. Also streaming live on Twitch, on WV Rapp, and on Twitter, my Twitter page. So thanks, guys, again for staying with us, watching us. Always be safe. God bless you. Be safe. We're out of here.